few years I've been writing prose and not poetry. Actually, at heart, I think once a person has written poetry, he's always a poet. And that's certainly true of me. I've never lost my feeling for poetry, never lost the desire to write it, and I know very well that one of these days I'm going back and write a great deal more. Nevertheless, the past few years, I've been writing novels and telling stories. I've always liked to tell stories. I began telling them when I was very young and began writing them then, and the love of telling stories stayed with me so much that I had to go back from writing poetry and begin telling them. Incidentally, if I kind of stumble and stagger around here a little bit today in my talking, don't be surprised. Because you know the human brain starts to function as soon as the person is born and never stops until he stands up to speak in public. A writer writing a book never knows exactly how it's going to appeal to his public. You write a book, you put certain lines into it, you develop certain characters, and then you may have people approach you and express feelings about them that are utterly different from those you imagined you were writing. There was a young fellow once picked up a book in a library and took it home and read it. When he brought it back, the librarian asked him how he liked it. It was a dictionary. He said, well, I like it very much, but he changes the subject so often. As probably some of you know, I've done a lot of rambling around the world. I went to sea for a while, worked in lumber camps. I want to tell you a little bit about this so you can get the background of what else I'm going to say. I came back from China and went up into the woods in Oregon, worked in the lumber woods for a while, and came down. I was about 19 then, I think, and I came down to Portland, Oregon. I went into the library, and for the next 10 months or so, I spent about 90% of my waking time in that library. I was working a little bit. Work was very slow at the time, so I'd go to the library at every available moment. I began reading Voltaire and Santayana, Bertrand Russell, all the philosophers, all the poets I could find. I read Chinese philosophy, I read Greek philosophy, I read Roman philosophy, I read history. And in the process of this reading, I came across a man who I'd never heard of before, and have heard far too little about since. A German philosopher whose name was Schleiermacher. He's very important to me because he said something in one of his essays, I've even forgotten the name of the essay, that has remained with me ever since. And it's the thought that I want to give you today, and the one that I want you to keep when you leave here. He said, no greater gift can any man give to another than his spirit's intimate converse with itself. Now, I think that is the keynote of all poetry. We are giving to our readers our spirit's intimate converse with itself. And that's the main point that I want to make today. Each of us, in a sense, is like a star. We're way out in the blackest space, and we're sending out rays trying to reach some other star that's close to us. I think Kipling phrased it better than anyone else possibly could when he said, we are all islands shouting lies to each other across seas of misunderstanding. And that's true. But poetry can bridge those seas. And poetry is the best way of bridging it, because poetry lasts beyond anything else and everything else. I have poems here in my pocket today, I may read one of them to you later, that are written 5,000 years ago. I have several poems here that are written by Chinese soldiers on guard along the Chinese wall.